Hello there, and welcome to this week's Stories Behind the Stories for November 19th. I am Casper, Wehrhahn, your host for today, writer, photographer, and archivist for the Neepawa Banner Press, and I'm joined today by Kira Paterson. Kira, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for hosting.
This week we are starting off with a nice follow-up photo on the front page from Remembrance Day service in Neepawa. Can't really see it that good, I'm sure, on the small version here, but be sure to pick up a hard copy to get the full effect of that photo. Nice photo there by Owen Devereaux, our co-worker in the office. It was a very snowy Remembrance Day this year, Kira. We had a good drop of snow that came down.
It seemed to decide to want to storm right on that day and then keep storming through the weekend. So that was kind of fun. It sounded like they had planned to do the ceremony outdoors at the cenotaph in Neepawa, but it sounded like they ended up changing it to be at the Legion, just because of the amount of snow that there was. But Owen was at the cenotaph, took some pictures. There were some people that showed up there to show their respects and lay their wreaths and that sort of thing. So stuff did happen at the cenotaph, but it sounded like more of the remembrance service was actually at the Legion just because of that storm. Like it just was not fun to be outside on that day.
Yeah, with, of course, COVID-19 still going on, they very much had a similar service to last year's, very small. But I'm sure the snow kind of spiced things up a bit for them. Bit of a chilly day on that day, so.
Yeah. It wasn't beautiful, but it was definitely, it's good to see that people still were willing to leave their house and brave the cold to go and pay their respects and take some time for remembrance.
Absolutely. Getting into the paper now, we do have to start off with some unfortunate news. There's a few outbreaks in the area that we have to talk about. The first of which we're going to mention is the outbreak at Third Crossing Manor. This was something that was announced before, but it has gotten worse. It was first announced last week, and I should say this care home is in Gladstone. But November 12th, it was stated that the facility had 40 cases in total, 26 of which were staff and 14 were non-staff. Those numbers are now higher. It's a total of 66 cases with 30 staff. Sorry, trouble speaking today. Oh boy. And 36 non-staff. Out of those, 48 were still active. And 18 had recovered with no deaths reported. So that is fortunate, no deaths. It's always unfortunate to hear deaths come out of a situation like this, but very, very happy to hear, especially in a care home, that that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, and people are recovering. Yeah, those numbers that were listed, those were as of Tuesday. Obviously, things keep changing, and every time I check the thing, it's different. We tried to get in touch with Southern Health as well, the RHA that covers the Gladstone area, and we weren't able to get anybody. We sent an email to their media relations, waited a few hours, never got any response. So we sent an email to a contact that we had contacted before for a different story. And there was an automatic reply from that one saying that he was out of the office and to contact the media relations email. I was like, well, we did that, but nobody responded to that either. So we never actually ended up getting a quote from Southern Health. And it was a little bit frustrating because we had seen in the Winnipeg Free Press, they had gotten some information from Southern Health. And on the CTV News, there was a story the Tuesday, I think it was, when I was writing this story, of the numbers, and they got some information from Southern Health, and the numbers were slightly different that Southern Health quoted than what's on the provincial website. And we kind of found that with when we talked about the hospital outbreak last week, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe last week.
Yeah, and we had talked to Prairie Mountain Health. They got back to us and they had given us numbers. And then later on, we saw numbers on the website and they were a little bit different. So it seems like there's a little bit of a discrepancy, no matter like who you talk to. It's maybe a little bit different here and there. Not a huge difference, like 1 or 2 cases. But yeah, it was just unfortunate that we didn't get the most up-to-date and accurate information from Southern Health. We just had to rely on what was on the provincial website, which is updated daily at 12:30. And we weren't even able to update on Wednesday because we had to go to print early on Wednesday. So probably the numbers have changed since then, but it is definitely, it's hard to watch when a local care home or hospital does come up with an outbreak. But luckily, the majority of residents there and staff have been double vaccinated, which probably has helped with preventing a lot of COVID deaths there. So that's a little bit of good news in the bad news about the outbreak. But yeah, that's kind of all we have at the moment because nobody would talk to us.
Yeah, it's always frustrating. You know, you try your darndest to just get in touch with the people that can give you the answers, and you just don't hear anything. No. It sounds like I missed quite a bit of phone tag while I was out of the office there for a short holiday.
Yeah, it was not fun, but that's okay. It happens. And with those like government kind of run things, it's always a little bit harder to get in touch with people because you have to go through media and they have to get certain permissions and blah, blah, blah. So it's always a little trickier, and I'm not blaming Southern Health or anything like that. But it feels a little bit like they're ghosting us. That's all.
It does kind of, doesn't it? We want to get the word out there. Help us.
Exactly.
But moving on to our second outbreak here, much smaller one, thankfully, and this did happen to be in the schools. Kira did the work on this one again, and these were within Neepawa. There was 2, I believe, in the middle school, and then 1 each in the other schools, right?
Yeah. And one thing, I'm going to be a little bit pedantic on that, is it wasn't actually considered an outbreak because there has to be a certain number of cases within a school and they have to be in separate cohorts for it to actually be considered an outbreak. So they weren't actually ever in the school when they were contagious. So I guess that was part of the thing where they didn't consider it an outbreak, but also there was only 2 in NMS and then 1 in each of the other ones. So it wasn't enough to consider it an outbreak, but it's still enough to be noteworthy. With the rise in cases we have had in our region, obviously some at the hospital, we have, as of today, I think 25 cases in the White Mud area active. So it's not a surprise to see it in the community and to hear that some kids at school have had it or are getting it. But the important thing to note is that they didn't get it at the school as far as they can tell, and they didn't spread at the school, which is the most important thing. They did what they had to do. They stayed home if they had symptoms. They got tested, and as soon as they tested positive, they were notified and they didn't show up to school. So it was very easy. They didn't have to do any remote learning for cohorts or anything like that, which they have sometimes had to do in the past in schools. They had to send some home just in case they had been exposed and that kind of thing. But this time it was fairly simple to work with. It was probably one of the better ones. I mean, it's never great when there's COVID in the school, but it's kind of one of the better situations you can have if that situation were to arise.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing as well, just to make note of, Jason wasn't able to confirm whether it was staff or kids who were sick, I think just because of like privacy or whatever. So we didn't have any specifics on that, but yeah, definitely very relieving for sure that the cases weren't within the school when they were contagious, and that's probably a relief both for students and staff. Especially students, I think, because, you know, remote learning is beneficial, but there are some people that doesn't work very well for. So I'm sure a lot of kids are relieved to be able to continue their in-class learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And circling back to that snowfall we had, Kira, you had to do a bit of work on a snowfall story, specifically with clearing up that snow. Walk us through that.
Yeah, I didn't have to clear up the snow, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, you always kind of hear grumblings. As soon as the snow falls, you hear the grumblings around town. Oh, why isn't the snow cleared yet? Oh, where are the workers bulldozing the roads and blah, blah, blah. Like, so you always kind of hear that, and it's literally literally like, as soon as the snow hits the ground, they're grumbling. So I talked to Denise Akay. He's the manager of operations for the town of Neepawa. He's kind of facilitator of the snow clearing, the crews and that kind of a thing. They have 2 contractors, P. Baker Backhoe and Rob Smith and Son, Backhoe and Trucking. And they work very hard to get the streets cleared once the snow falls. And he basically kind of explained it did take a few days before some of the streets were drivable or before they were clear. Like, obviously some of them were still drivable, they just were kind of full of snow, so it was annoying and gross to drive on them. But yeah, he kind of explained this one was a hard snow to deal with, because it started off kind of as a little bit of rain, and then it was kind of melty snow, and it was so wet that it was just really heavy and thick, and it was just really hard for them to clear. And then it kept snowing. So it snowed for a day, and then it snowed some more. So they cleared some of the streets, and then they had to go and clear them again because it snowed more, and people have been pushing snow onto the streets and stuff. So he kind of gave us a little lowdown on what the process is like, why it takes a few days to actually get everything done. And he was very pleased with how quickly it actually ended up getting done with the type of storm that we had. So it was good to kind of get their side of things, because you always know that it's annoying when you can't drive to where you need to be and you're stuck at home because of the snow, but there is stuff behind it that causes some delays or makes it harder for them to get out as timely as possible. Obviously, Friday, there were roads closed, highways were closed. I couldn't get to town. So the people that were plowing the streets, some of them live out of town, they couldn't get to town either. So that kind of puts a delay on things too. So it's definitely important to get both sides and just to see how much work goes into that process of getting the streets cleared so that we can drive and park and get where we need to be.
Absolutely, yeah. I was actually going to say, yeah, it felt like the snow was dealt with pretty fast. Especially I remember living in Brandon for a little bit, for college, of course. And it just seemed like it took forever to get the snow cleared. Like, the snow would pretty much be melted by the time they got to it, you know? And then they'd be out plowing the streets. I'm like, what? Okay. But yeah, no, the town dealt with this pretty fast. I think my only complaint really was just that, like, I don't know if there was a notice we missed that they put out or something, but like we had no warning that they were going to pile snow.
Oh, okay.
So my family actually had to shovel for like 3 hours to get our cars out from the bank that they were blocked into. Yeah. So my one criticism would be like, you know, put out a phone call or something, because we definitely didn't get a phone call. I know they've been doing some stuff on Facebook, at least just recently, because we did get a notice via Facebook for the second snow clearing.
Oh, okay.
But not everybody's going to see Facebook. Yeah. So I would like to see the town do more phone calls. I know they've done that in the past for different things. So why not the snow clearing, you know? And like, especially in that case, like, we're in my family living at the house fairly young, so we can handle that kind of work, but not everybody in town is going to be able to do that. There's older folks, or maybe they have some sort of thing with their back or something, they can't handle that. So it'd be nice to see more of a heads up, at least like at the start of the year when it's going to be like, oh, hey, we're going to start worrying about snow. Maybe put something out in the paper, do out a phone call to remind people like, hey, whenever stuff happens with snowfall, like, these are streets you're going to be able to expect, like they have in the paper now. They'd have those details in there, just so people are reminded, and you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think part of it this time, they do have snow gates on their plows, so they can put those snow gates down, which stops the ridge from building up to the sides, so that they don't block driveways and don't block people in. But the snow this time was so heavy that they couldn't use them. Yeah. So definitely in this case, it would have been good to know, because it is, especially with the snow being so wet and heavy, shoveling it is painful and difficult. So having it kind of ridged up around your car, when it all piles up, it gets even denser, and then it's even harder to shovel. Yeah,
and the thing too is, like, not everybody has driveways. Like most of my family, with the number of people that we have in our family, we have like, 7 vehicles? So there's me, my brother, my sister, mom, and dad. We have 2 trucks so they each take one. Yeah. And then Sydney is at the house with us as well. So yeah, 6 or 7. So we have one person in the driveway because we have like a small driveway, but then everybody else is parked on the street. So if we don't know that snow clearing is going to happen, it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
oops, okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a town person, so I don't really know how the whole process goes. But if you knew that snow clearing was happening, like where would you put your cars or your vehicles?
We kind of have a bit of a weird thing that we have to do. I think my sister is usually awake fairly early for work, and she gets out the door before anything related to snow clearing happens. So there's not much worry there. And then sometimes she's away from the house, staying at her boyfriend's place. So she might not be parking there. But if we do know snow clearing is going to happen, we usually try and sneak a second vehicle into the driveway, just, jam them in there. We can usually get one of the trucks up onto the front lawn or something, and then we just kind of have to figure something out for the other vehicles to make it work. But just things like that. Like if people know, they can maybe find like a side street or something that's not going to be cleared right away to put the vehicles on temporarily.
That's true.
But yeah.
Okay. There's all these little things that I would never think of because I just know, okay, I gotta wait till the gravel roads get plowed and then I dig my way out of the yard. That's my process.
Yeah, it's depending on the household. It's definitely very challenging to try and figure things out. Maybe try and bug a neighbor, see if they have like extra space to park in. Yeah. But anyway, not trying to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that, but just these little things that would be like, this would be nice, just to be a little bit nice.
Yeah. If you get the chance, just think
if
of
at all possible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But winter struggles.
Oh yes.
Typical stuff, right?
That's what we get for living in Manitoba, right?
Oh, absolutely. Canada in general, just. Come on.
you're going to have to deal with this at some point.
Moving on to some development within Neepawa, there's a bit of progress made on an area that would be used for modular homes. It passed first and second reading because there's an amendment to zoning bylaws for the 40 acres of land near the water tower, just kind of near the edge of town here. And if that goes past the third reading, if it gets approved, then that land will allow for the creation of 140 individual lots for these modular homes to be built on. And this isn't the first expansion that Neepawa has seen by any means. We had, some development at CN property and another place I can't think of off the top of my head. But Neepawa is growing quite a bit in the past few years. Like, it's kind of remarkable, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that people are kind of starting to see, developers are starting to see the demand for housing in this town. Prices are way not affordable for a lot of people when they're moving here, getting a new job, all that kind of thing. So having modular homes, that is kind of a more affordable thing. So modular homes basically are like prefabrication. They build the pieces of the house. They put a foundation in place on the lot, and then they bring those pieces of the house and put them up on the foundation. So it's faster and cheaper to do that way, so it makes it more affordable, which is something that this town really needs. Like, we have lots of like big, nice old houses in kind of the downtown area, and then there's getting some more. I think they're going to be like duplexes or something on the CN property. So there's going to be some more affordable stuff there, but it definitely will be helpful for first-time home buyers, newcomers to Canada, people that are looking for a place to live, but there's just no affordable or options within their size that they're looking for, that kind of a thing. So yeah, I definitely think that this and all the other developments are really important to Neepawa.
Absolutely. And with this development in particular, it really seems like people are seeing more of the value to modular homes, because modular homes are by no means like horrible or anything. They're good. But I know for a while there's been like sort of like a stigma around them, or just like, oh, it's not going to be any good. But yeah, like they look great. Like, they look like a home, and they are a home. And the fact that it's going to bring in some more affordable housing to Neepawa is very much needed. It's a struggle to get into housing, especially nowadays, because everything is just so expensive. And especially if you're a first-time buyer, if you're, you know, someone my age, it's really hard to do that kind of thing, especially with inflation, all that kind of factoring into it. So I hope that, you know, I can kind of see those spots filling up pretty fast, honestly, especially with the population in Neepawa growing, like, just continuously. We have a lot of people coming in here, so definitely a benefit for the community for sure. Another development we can talk about in sort of a different sense is Rock in the Riverbed. That is an event coming for 2022. Nice tourism-based event. Everybody is familiar with the Riverbed Makers Market, I'm sure. That was put on just this year, right? Yep. Earlier this year, yeah. And it was successful. It went over really well. There was people all over Manitoba who came in to show off their handmade products and, you know, sell them, and it got them out there and familiar with the Neepawa community, and brought in people to the community to check out those products and purchase them, as well as people from our community going down to check out their business and support them. And that is being expanded upon. Jeff Descender of Frozen Fire Studios, he is the owner and operator of that studio, is partnering with Neepawa Tourism and the Riverbed Makers Market to sort of expand the event and bring more of a musical side into it. Because music is big in the Neepawa community. We get a pretty good response, honestly, for musical events, kaleidoscope concerts, local concerts that are held, such as Lunch Money playing at the Roxy for fundraising events and whatnot. And so he's hoping, and tourism is hoping, to expand upon that and make that more of a focus again. Obviously, we used to have something like this through the Lily Festival, which unfortunately did cease to continue. Some year, I don't remember what year, it was a while ago now.
I feel like it was in the teens somewhere, maybe
I
the
think
early
in the teens maybe, right? I think before I went to college. But, you know, hopefully bring sort of that kind of aspect back, because that was a big event for the community, and it'd be nice to see something like that start up again. So hopefully this can be that type of thing, and they're hoping to build on it more if it's successful. So definitely check out those details on page 3. Kira, did you have anything else you wanted to say on that?
Well, I think the cool thing about this particular event is the Neepawa-centric focus. Obviously, partnering with Neepawa Tourism, you want to bring people from outside the community, but the concert itself, Jeff Descender is looking at a lot of Neepawa artists, local musicians, because he goes to kind of the open mic nights at Arts Forward, some of the different musical events in town, and he can see how many talented people there are just within this community. So he's going to try to get as many Neepawa musicians as possible to be at this concert and the little music festival thing, and showcase their talents. And people from outside the community all over Manitoba can come and see just how talented the people of Neepawa are, which is a really cool thing.
Yeah, and you know, that's always great, because we have a lot of talent within the community that can be highlighted, and especially in terms of tourism as well. Like, I remember looking in the archives, and I'll see this now and again still as I'm going through, but people really came from just all over the place for Lily Fest. Like, it still blows my mind. Like, I think we've had people from Germany, for example, come all the way here just for Lily Fest. So, like, if we can somehow get that kind of thing going again for the Riverbed Makers Market, that would just be fantastic. Like, I cannot believe just how far people would travel just to come to this small little town and see what it has to offer. Like, it's just fascinating.
I remember going to Lily Fest once in a while, and they would always have this big map. I can't remember where exactly it was. It was in one of the tents somewhere on the street, and there was a big map, and it had pins from all over, from places that people had come from to come to Lilyfest, and it was just amazing. Like, I'm pretty sure I'd seen dots from Australia, and I don't know if they came from Australia just for Lilyfest, but they were from Australia, and they'd come to Manitoba, and they came to Lilyfest. So there's like all over the map, there was little pins everywhere. It was really cool to see. I remember that one little image sticking in my head when I was there.
Yeah, I don't actually remember seeing that map.
Okay.
I could have missed it.
It may have only been 1 year. I don't even remember. I just vividly remember there being a map, but I vaguely remember where or when. I just know it was at the Lilyfest.
Well, I know I've gone multiple years, but, there's just always so much going on and so many things to look at that, I easily could have missed it. I'm sure I did. But, yeah, that visual for sure just kind of, it'd be so incredible to look at. Like, all the different dots on the map. Yeah. Like, the people came from all the way over in Tokyo. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
right? But yeah, it's incredible. So I hope this really kicks off and people enjoy it now more than ever. We do have a little bit of time, Kira, unfortunately, I'm sure, to talk about sports. So we'll take a quick look at that. The Farmers played the Bombers here recently. And it was a bit of a penalty-filled game by the looks of it. Not just for the home team, but for the away team as well, though the home team did have the away team beat in terms of numbers of penalties. Farmers had a whopping 49 minutes for a dozen penalties, and the Bombers also had some time in what Owen called the sin bin, the penalty box. 43 minutes in there, so quite the game, I'm sure. I know there is some players not quite happy with how it was called from the sounds of it, and there was a couple fights, so I'm sure the crowd was kind of excited and being like, ooh, stuff's going down.
Yeah.
And of course, the WMCI varsity volleyball team won Zone 7 championship, so congratulations to them. And quick flip over to the second sports page. The Tigers were unfortunately defeated by the Major Pratt Trojans. What day was that game? That was November 14th. So good try for them. It was, I think, 3-1?
8-3.
8-3.
That's a high-scoring game.
And the Titans, down on the second half of the page there, split some games with the Wolverines. So they had some wins, some losses, but good effort all around, I'm sure. I haven't been to a game recently. I haven't had to cover one for Owen lately. Well, there was one, but unfortunately I had other stuff going on, so I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot. I felt really bad about that. Thankfully, Owen did not want to chop off my head the next morning. But yeah, I haven't been to a Titans game recently. I'm kind of curious how they're doing on the ice now, if they've got a bit more vigor in them these days.
Yeah, I have to say I haven't been to a Titans game. I've been to some of the Natives games in previous years, but I don't think I've been to one yet since they've been the Titans. So it would definitely be interesting to see if the new name has also caused a new energy to come into the team.
Yeah, that's something else I'm curious about as well, actually, is how many more people are inside the rink with the name change? I hope more, because I know lots of people are hoping for a name change. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have. We couldn't cover everything that was in the paper, of course. There's always so much to go through. But thank you for joining me for this week's Stories Behind the Stories. And thanks again, Kira, for joining me. As always, we love to hear from you. So if you'd like to give us a call for a news tip or book an ad, call us at 204-476-3401. Or if you'd like to email us some of your news, stories, photos, email us at news@neepawabanner.com. Or if you'd like to get in touch directly with the ads, to book an ad for us, because we do thrive on our ads to get the people out weekly and keep it free, contact us at ads@neepawabanner.com. Thanks again, and have a good night. Or day.